Oh God, I'm so sorry, guys. I fucked up. Oh God, I'm so sorry, guys. I fucked up. All right, so I just doubled up. What's going on, FTP Chris? Oh boy, he popped in here real quick. What's going on? We ain't following each other. Oh yeah, we're following each other. I was gonna say, I thought we definitely followed each other a long time ago. All right, guys. So how does this sound? We're gonna watch this video about the 100 people versus the gorilla. What do you guys think about this shit? Honestly, I want you guys' honest opinion. What do you guys? What do you think, Chris? Nope, I gotta fix that. We're not GTA in it right now, guys. Sorry about that. We are not GTA in it right now. Let me fix that. Oh, I can't. Yeah, I can't. This guy fucking. All right. 100 men versus a gorilla. That sounds crazy. I've been hearing about it since yesterday. I didn't know it was going to be a topic, and then guess what? I woke up this morning and I saw that Mr. Beast is talking about making a video, 100 people versus a gorilla. I'm like, are you fucking serious? So I'm checking it out. I look it up, and there's videos that are not that old. They're like a couple hours old, 20 hours, 22 hours old, a day old, So I'm like, all right, this is like a fresh topic, brand new topic. Well, it's not a fresh topic. It's been talked about for a very long time, but it's now starting to become an actual thing. Like people are trying to do this now. Like people are trying to show what it could actually happen instead of just like little CGI films and stuff like that. These are actual films that people are trying to make now. So let's do this.
So recently, all of social media has been blowing up with the debate of one gorilla versus one humans. The funny thing is, it seems on the fight. One side thinks that the Polo Winston and just completely thrashed the army. I believes that the sheer numbers with this kind of stuff. Make sure to like, subscribe, and let's jump right
Don't know
in.
why.
Now, to begin, I think it's important to establish both sides of this fight. For the gorilla, we are assuming that this
This is terrible. Hold on, guys. I hate this. Just hold on, guys. Give me a second. I got this. I think I got this. I'm having a bad time with this lately. I don't know why. Anytime I try to do a video or anything like that, seems to not want to let me work. A 100 men versus one gorilla.
So recently, all of social media has been blowing up with the debate of one gorilla versus 100 humans. The funny thing is that everyone seems completely divided on who would win the fight. So all of social media has been blowing up with the debate of one gorilla versus 100 humans. The funny thing is that everyone seems completely divided onto who would win the fight. One side thinks that the gorilla would pull a Winston and just completely thrash the army of humans with ease, while the other side believes that the sheer numbers would let the humans just beat up the gorilla like it's Naruto. But who is actually correct? Is a gorilla versus 100 people actually a fair fight, or is it actually a stomp? Does the gorilla win, or do the humans? Let's find out. If you like this kind of stuff, make sure to like, subscribe, and let's jump right in. Now, to begin, I think it's important to establish both sides of this fight. For the gorilla, we are assuming that this is essentially the strongest gorilla possible. Of the 4 gorilla species, easily the largest and strongest would be a silverback eastern lowland gorilla. At the absolute largest, gorillas can stand at over 6 feet tall and weigh between 400 and 500 pounds, with the largest ever being about 600 pounds or even beyond. However, this fails to capture how a gorilla's overall proportions.
There we go. I think I fixed it. I don't know. We'll find out. Here we go.
So recently, all of social media has been blowing up with the debate of one gorilla versus 100
This is
humans.
fucking retarded, guys. I don't know what's
So
going
recently,
on.
all of social media up with the debate of one gorilla
What?
versus 100 humans. The funny thing is that everyone seems completely divided onto who would win the fight. One side thinks that the gorilla would pull a Winston and just completely thrash the army of humans with ease, while the other side believes that the sheer numbers would let the humans just beat up the gorilla.
think it's gonna work now. Oh,
Strongest gorilla possible. Of the 4 gorilla species, easily the largest and strongest would be a silverback eastern lowland gorilla. At the absolute largest, gorillas can stand over 6 feet tall and weigh between 400 and 500
all right.
pounds. So
I think I managed to get it to work.
and weigh between 400 and 500
All right.
pounds.
So I think I managed to get it to work. So you guys can give me a second. Let me make sure. Please. So you guys can give me a second. Let me make sure. Please.
All of social media has been blowing up with the debate 1 gorilla versus 100 humans. The funny thing is that everyone seems completely divided onto who would win the fight. One side thinks that the gorilla would pull a Winston and just completely thrash the army of humans with ease, while the other side believes that the sheer numbers would let the humans just beat up the gorilla like it's Naruto. But who is actually correct? Is a gorilla versus 100 people actually a fair fight, or is it actually a stomp? Does the gorilla win, or do the humans? Let's find out. If you like this kind of stuff, make sure to like, subscribe, and let's jump right in. Now, to begin, I think it's important to establish both sides of this fight. For the gorilla, we are assuming that this is essentially the strongest gorilla possible. Of the 4 gorilla species, easily the largest and strongest would be a silverback
Of course,
eastern.
a silverback gorilla would be the ultimate go-to. I would think that automatically, yes. Yes. Silverback is definitely going to be the one they're going to use. Of course. I mean, come on now. All right, so yeah, that's definitely another option.
Lowland gorilla. At the absolute largest, gorillas can stand over 6 feet tall and weigh between
No,
400
they're
and
gonna
500
use. They're
pounds,
trying.
the largest ever being about
talking about
600
doing it,
pounds or
literally.
even beyond. However, this fails to
I
capture
know,
how a
but they're
gorilla's
gonna
overall
find a way to
proportions
do it.
drastically exceed
They're
that
gonna
of a
do it
normal human,
somewhere
with a
where it's
wingspan
not
of over
legal.
8 feet,
How
typically
much you
more
wanna
muscle
bet?
mass and far less body fat. In comparison to the peak gorilla,
I don't.
the group of humans
There's
will be made up of 100 average people.
I-
There will be no
That
boxers, nor
verified was
MMA
real
fighters,
too.
or
That was real
athletes.
deal.
Instead, it will just be 100 totally normal people with totally normal physical stats, with there being an equal number of men and women. Now, technically, average height and weight varies somewhat drastically across the planet, so for this video, we'll be taking the stats from just Americans when possible. This means the 50 men in the group will be on average 5'9" and almost 200 pounds, while the 50 women in the group will be on average 5'4"
How
and
many
170
verified?
pounds.
There
Now,
you
to be fair,
go.
Americans are kind of
There you
fat, so
go.
ultimately using the
Yes,
statistics of a
baby. I think
healthier
you're onto
nation doesn't
something.
change these values.
That's a great ass idea. You know what? I think we should do something about that. I think we should try to pull a Mr. Beast and do that. Let's do it right now.
More like a Mr. Jimmy John.
Call me a Mr. Jimmy Johns. What?
Did you see his animal abuse photo? He was like naked, just like
Who?
dolphins and shit. The owner of Jimmy John.
Are you fucking serious? Holy fuck. That's what we need to cover is that what's going on with Jimmy Johns in the dolphin pictures? What's up with that?
There's like a lot of endangered hunting things.
What's up with that, guys? I didn't know about that. Give me my medicine, baby, and some water.
It's called poaching.
I'm back. Sorry.
Very much, or the outcome, in my opinion. Still, either way, the gorilla is going to be far larger than any single human, exceeding them in height by a couple inches and being casually twice the weight of the average man. Also, just so we're all on the same page, this is what 100 people looks like. It's definitely not a small group, but it's also not a massive crowd by any means. A lot of college lectures have more people than this in them. With that being understood, who wants this? Determining the true strength of a gorilla is incredibly difficult for multiple reasons. Firstly, gorillas ultimately are not a predatory species, so in comparison to something like a bear, a wolf, or any of the big cats, they rarely, if ever, go out of their way to attack humans. Secondly, unlike for humans that
Oh
will
my
willingly do
God.
experiments to test the limits
Jimmy
of human
Johns,
strength,
what's
doing the
up
exact
with
same
that?
thing is almost impossible for gorillas because they're not just going to do a bench press for a couple of bananas, unfortunately. This
I'm gonna have to
forces
pull that
most,
up
if
before
any,
guys.
estimations
Nope.
of gorilla strength to be just that. Estimations based off of their bodies and the very rare instances of strength that we have seen from them. Thirdly, there is a lot of hearsay and misinformation regarding gorillas, with most online sources claiming completely different stats for what gorillas are actually capable of. Finally, a lot of info about gorillas that does exist is often times really old. The biggest issue, though, is that inconsistent information. For example, one website says they can lift 1,800 pounds, while another claims they can lift more than twice that at 4,000 pounds. Things get even more wild when these resources put it in terms of humans. Some claim that a gorilla is 8 times stronger than an average man. Another claims that they are 4 to 10 times stronger than a human. Another source claims 12 times, with another
able to pick up. What is that about?
That's the one that cracked me up. The dolphin one. Oh, that's zoomed in.
I'll show you guys that here in a little bit. Let me just do this real quick. Let me finish this up.
They're claiming that gorillas are a whopping 20 times stronger than a human. The only number between sources is enough to say that these numbers are made up or very.
Jimmy
Let's
John
look to what researchers have said about thin banana trees, shattering protective glass, and have broken human arms in brief attacks. Smaller and weaker primates like chimpanzees have shown feats of strength 2 to 3 times stronger than that of a normal human, around 800 to 1,200 pounds, given that chimps are less than a quarter of more valid and would approximately make them 8 to 10 times stronger than a human being lifting wise, though strength and weight don't exactly work like that in a 1-to-1 ratio, clearly.
We'll be going and we're going to be watching that Jimmy John's poaching after this, just so you guys know.
Information, the statements get harder to verify, but could also be potentially more legitimate, as these were real interactions in the wild. We have accounts from 19th century explorer Paul Chowlu recounting gorillas snapping and bending metal guns with their bare hands, or even an older account from explorer Andrew Patel that recounts that 10 people were unable to pin a gorilla, around things like gorilla bite force and punching strength, which is incredibly difficult to calculate without, having the gorilla punch something that actually measures the force. Still, even the most lowball calculations put the gorilla's strength at around 881 joules of force, with the highest being 3,660 joules of force. In comparison, humans output only about 74 joules with their punches, which would make the potential difference in punch power anywhere from around 10 to 50 times. I don't think really speed is something we really need to talk about here. It isn't like other power scaling topics where either side is a blitz difference faster than the other or anything like that. Gorillas and humans are simply comparable in overall speed, with the gorilla being a bit faster in bursts of muscular power, though such speeds aren't exactly sustainable. So overall, gorillas are stronger, larger, heavier, and more powerful than multiple humans combined. Either way though, are the humans cooked? Let's get into it. Now, in a 1v1, 2v1, or even 10v1, I think the gorilla could pretty easily take it. From everything we've seen, from historical accounts to estimations, a gorilla may legitimately be around 10 times the strength of average humans, making all of these random articles potentially correct even if they were just yapping. Single strikes and bites from a gorilla is going to be breaking bones of whoever is unlucky enough to be in range. As they tend to do, they can also easily grab, lift, and pull around any human they manage to grab. Furthermore, most attacks from a human are simply not not going to legitimately harm a gorilla. The difference in the basic lifting and punching power being
only
so
thing a
immense that the
human's gonna be able
person
to do
punching the gorilla
pick up
would probably
something
hurt
and
their
bash it with
hands
it.
more than the gorilla's
That's it.
body. But as the number of
What the hell
humans
is a
increases
human
towards
gonna do?
100, things get worse and worse for the gorilla for multiple reasons. Firstly, fatigue. Gorillas are not used to, nor are they really built for long, drawn-out fights. Most conflicts between gorillas only last a couple minutes at most, which is actually true for most humans as well. But while the gorilla might tear through 20, 30, 40 people, boom, there are still 60 humans the gorilla has to beat in order to win. Secondly, in this fight, strategy and coordination genuinely matter. For this fight to even happen, we kind of need to ignore the concept of fear for both sides. If a gorilla saw a group of 100 humans, they are very likely not going to attack and just run away. On the other side, if most people saw a gorilla beating up a dude, they're not going to jump in and help out. They're also running away. With that being said, if both sides legitimately want to beat the other with full conviction and no other options, 100 people can pretty quickly coordinate to absolutely bum rush on the gorilla, who simply would not be able to attack every person at once, even 20 people at once. Which brings up the third thing, weight. For as strong as a gorilla is, especially a potentially tired gorilla is simply not strong enough to hold off the weight of a coordinated group of humans. At the mid-end estimation of 1,800 pounds, even just 20 200-pound humans would be able to pin down a gorilla, with the only claim to the contrary being from a guy born in the 1500s. Would people get hurt and probably be killed in this effort to pin him down? But again, there are 50 dudes all prepared to do this, let alone the 50 women. But pinning isn't enough. The gorilla would need to be defeated, and even without tools, humans should be able to actually hurt gorillas. While human punches are far weaker than the apes, human kicks are overall far stronger. It can range from over 3,000 to over 4,000 joules, which is actually stronger than gorilla punches from a pure energy output standpoint, as crazy as that sounds. So while yes, one guy randomly kicking a gorilla would probably do nothing, several dozen people all kicking at a gorilla's head while he's already pinned down would eventually take him out. So yes, 100 humans could beat a gorilla. If gorillas were truly a threat to literally 100 humans at a time, there would be far more stories of gorillas actually, killing humans, while we have stories like this for elephants or bears. So bottom line is this: humans most likely win, but you don't want to be at the front of the crowd when you're staring down a silverback. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. As always, thank you to my members, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.
Yo. So, that being said, wow. So let's see something else real quick. This Jimmy John's thing. Let's find this real quick. If it'll let me. Jesus, I can't stand it when it does this. Jimmy John's poaching. Oh, this is pretty old, I guess. All right, so it's called All right, so I found something. I'm just looking around on here real quick. There's like a 1%er right here. I don't know. These are old, baby. This is some old stuff. This is like 9 years old, 7 years old. People are trying to boycott him. They were trying to boycott him like a few years ago. That's probably the reason why we don't see so much Jimmy Johns anymore.
I don't think I've ever eaten.
I mean, I've ate there a few times. It wasn't all that.
It ain't worth that.
And it ain't worth all that. Yeah, it ain't worth all that bullshit. That's fucking wild. I don't want to give no man fucking.
Fuck that.
Here we go. I think they talk about his hunting life. I was looking for something like this with the bone to.
Can't wait for y'all to see this and listen to this podcast. I'm sitting here with my buddy, Jimmy John. We're going to talk life, and we're going to talk about what it's like to hunt the good Lord's renewable resources right here on A Bone to Pick. Hello, and welcome, everyone, to this podcast, A Bone to Pick with Waddy or Michael Waddell, whichever one you want to call me. This podcast
Let me
is
know
brought to
in
you
the
by
chat
Bushnell,
if
the
this is
official
looking
optics
real
of
shitty.
Realtree.
If it is,
You know, it's
let
hard
me
to
know
believe
if it
Bushnell
isn't.
is celebrating
Give me a
25
W,
years
please and
since
thank
the
you.
innovation of the hunting laser rangefinder. A Bone to Pick podcast is also brought to you by the fine people at Chevrolet, the Chevy Silverado Realtree Edition, featuring authentic Realtree camo pattern accents and graphics. Chevy Silverado is the strongest, most advanced Silverado. This podcast is also brought to you by the best camo pattern industry. The Bone to Pick. But Jimmy, buddy, I've said it before,
Big game
but you're the one
hunting.
friend that I feel like that I've known for years and years, because you have friends, my friends, stories about you. And then plus I realized that you were a hunter. And then just this past January, we had a chance to meet through Clint Boyer, mutual friend of ours, retirement party. And dude, I come walking up and I think I hugged your neck and said, dude, I feel like I've known you forever. And I'm so glad to meet you. And it's almost like we were long lost brothers or something. And I obviously had a chance to come hunting up here at your place at Booners in Illinois and hang out with Mark Wimpy and all the guys. And so I just want to say, it's cool that when you think somebody's a certain way and you meet them, they're exactly like you picture. So it's just been awesome to get to know you, man.
Oh, well, that's awful nice. Yeah. You know, it's funny that you say that you thought you knew me, because I thought I knew you. And so when I saw you, I'm like, oh, hey, Michael, how you doing? You're like, oh, hey, Jimmy, how are you? And like, we did know each other, but it's amazing. It's amazing how that happens. And that's just a stroke of luck, you know?
I'm gonna give you guys my honest opinion on Jimmy right now. Jimmy John kind of looks like a cool stand-up guy, to be honest. Let's just be real. He seems like a real cool guy. Got some money and ended up starting to do things that he liked to do. All right. And that happened to be big game hunting. Now, I don't agree with it, especially with that dolphin hunting and stuff like that. I mean, come on now, man. What is that about? What are you doing? What is the purpose of that? To hang a dolphin on your wall or something? Like, what is that about? I never understood that. But let's get back to it.
No doubt, man. And then it went further because I got to talking, and obviously at that particular party, man, there was all these people there from Blake, Gwen came, Guy, all these friends of yours, and some that I knew, some I didn't. And then as we got to just hanging out, it literally was like, I don't know, man, it was just like a Boy Scout camp, but a megally fun time. Travis came, and also you surprised Clint, and holy cow, you had Vince Neil show up to put on a concert. And so obviously you had Travis come there. And one thing that blew me away, and I wonder if it ever happened, because if you look at it, I got thinking about me being there. I'm just a turkey caller guy who loved to hunt and fish. Of course, most everybody there loved hunting and fishing the outdoors. In reality, you this guy that's the sandwich guy, and then here these guys are in your Rolodex. I mean, does that ever hit you to think that, holy cow, this is surreal that this is my life? And of course, you bench myself, and I wonder if it ever happened to you, because if you look at it, I got to thinking about me being.
I'm trying to fix this. It's giving me a weird. Hold on. Maybe I need to put on low latency or something, I think. All right.
In there. I'm just a turkey caller guy who loved to hunt and fish. And of course, most everybody there loved hunting and fishing the outdoors. In reality, you this guy that's the sandwich guy, and then here these guys are in your Rolodex. I mean, does that ever hit you to think that, holy cow, this is surreal that this is my life? And of course, your beautiful wife Leslie was there, and we were just having such a good time. I mean, what is that like? Did you ever think you'd just call it my? What is that like? Did you ever think you'd just call it my? Motley Crue and like, hey man, having a party, y'all come hang out.
You know, it's interesting. But it's a great question. You know, because when just talking about Vince is my neighbor in Lapers Fork, Tennessee, and Vince is a huge NASCAR fan.
Right.
And I was talking to Vince. I said, I'm going to Clint Boyer's retirement party this weekend. What are you doing? And he said, I'm not doing anything. I said, how'd you like to come and play? And he said, are you kidding me? He said, for Clint Boyer? He said, you know Clint Boyer? This is Vince Neil. I'm like, well, yeah, he's one of my best buds, man. And so Vince said, well, shit, I'll come play for you. And so Vince came, and yeah, it was just like that. And he came and played the show. But Vince was equally as excited to play as you know, and Clint was a huge fan of Motley Crue. So, you know, that just worked out. But as far as you know, the Rolodex and meeting people, you know, I'm 57, and I made sandwiches for 35 years before I sold the business in 2019. So I had an opportunity to meet a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
and what I found really that people that have been through the journey to get to a place where they have some measurable success or some perceived success, you know, they have a lot in common. And what is in common is a lot of hard work, a lot of hours, a lot of failures, a lot of betrayals, a lot of, you know, that's not the deal I thought we had, you know. But if you look at any of these, you know, if any people that are uber successful, like Blake or yourself or Gwen or Clint Boyer or Vince Neil or
right.
you know, you know, so I think we all have that thing in common. We've been through the trenches and been through the fires and been through the wars. And I think that really brings out the authenticity in a human being. And I think that to have some success and some authenticity and some real is that's nectar. That's what it's about, because you know, it's not about the work. It's not about the stuff. It's about the hard work and the journey and when you've been through it, I think that we have that in common. And so being as old as I am, you know, to have a Rolodex with you know, yeah, you know, I think it just comes with the territory, and it is what it is. And you know, I don't know what just came to me. I think I just saw a Bass Pro hat over there, but I was thinking about like Johnny Morris and
Right.
And you know, and Johnny's he's a beautiful guy. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but no, I don't really. Do I pinch myself? I just, you know, when where I really at that particular event at Clint's party, you know, I had Blake is singing a song, and he's singing, and his wife, and they're singing together, and
Yeah.
I'm sitting at a dining table, and when I was sitting there at that, I was at that moment, it was incredible, that moment of the beauty of those two
Yes.
artists doing their magic. It's like watching you call a turkey, watching them do their thing, you know. So just to be able to be in a place like that, and to hear them sing like that, and around folks that have, you know, that's really, really special. You know, it's really,
Right.
really special. And our common bond is that we've all been through the battles, and that's the
Yes.
common bond. You know, the common bond isn't we all have a Cadillac. The common bond is we survived.
Yes,
You
that's
know?
true.
We survived.
Sometimes we survive, we're still limping, but we survive.
Yeah, but we survived. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Well, you're
So far, what
exactly
I've
right
taken
on all
Jimmy
that. I feel
John,
so much of the same because obviously,
I don't know, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think he's a stand-up guy, but I don't agree with that shit.
when you look and you think about success, for me, I remember when I first started having an opportunity just through some outdoor television programming, I remember getting a chance to meet people that I very much admired, looked up to.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, at that point, I was very insecure about like, holy cow, man, I'm not meant to be here. I'm not meant to be at this social gathering. And, you know, I'm this kid from Booger Bottom, you know, I don't know how to exactly say if it's supposed to be. It's funny. I was like, you know, before all these pronouns, well, hell, I was messing it up before then anyway, because I was saying words wrong and different, you know, being from the South with a thick Southern accent, you know, my dad who made me make sure I ate all the, you know, waited on the catfish when it came out, all you eat catfish before you ate any slaw. So you got your money's worth. So now I'm around these, you know, like you said, uber successful people.
Yeah, what kind of wine you want? Cold.
Yeah, what kind of wine you want? What do you want for
Cold.
appetizer? I remember the first time I remember seeing people order appetizers. I can't wait to leave the restaurant so I can call my dad and tell him about these people eating before we ate. Like that just blew my mind, right? And so for me, there was a certain amount of insecurity, but I think what you just said is the same thing that I saw. I found in actuality, even though I'm this kid from Booger Bottom, or let's say, you know, you got a Johnny Morris there who obviously is very successful in vision. You know, it's somebody like yourself. It is a Vince Neil. Maybe it's Kid Rock. It's you know, Bobby sitting over there with a 6-string or whatever it is. And then you realize that almost the level of comfort of being around these people is easier than maybe at the local Kiwanis Club, you know, meeting where everybody's, you know, throwing around that maybe they did just get a new Cadillac because they have more insecurities than say a Vince Neil.
Sure.
Or more insecurities than a Zach Brown because they have nothing to prove. They say what they want. They do what they want. They mutually respect. If there's something you do that's stupid, they're going to call you out on it. And I found that even though I thought I might not fit in, well, I just jumped right in there and it felt so good. And I'm sure there's a part of that you felt the same, that it was easier being around these people that maybe at the beginning you was nervous to even meet.
Yeah, I think once again, I think that I mean that's so honest, you know.
Yeah,
it's so true. Meeting celebrities is for sure. I felt the same way. I'm a sandwich maker. Yeah, I'm a fat kid from Perry, Illinois. You know, I'm dyslexic. You know, I graduated second to last in my high school class, and you know, and you know, I can't think of anything any less sexy living than making sandwiches and delivering them, you know, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, which I did. And so, yeah, I felt for sure, you know, for sure you feel that way. But the cool thing is once you do meet, again, the common bond is we survived the battle.
right.
And whatever your medium is, to survive the battle and make it through and then have it be your living, you know, that is the common bond. I mean, I can't think of any man that I've met maybe in my life more humble and more kind and maybe measurably the most successful than Johnny Morris.
Correct.
I mean, this is a guy that is just he is so sweet and so kind, and he loves human beings and he loves family and you know, I mean, you know, if you have iron jeans, he'll give you shit. You know, like,
Yeah.
what are you ironing your jeans for, man?
With
That's not what
Jimmy
he-
John, the poacher. But I'm just gonna give you guys a heads up that I think he's a stand-up guy, but definitely needs to reevaluate his living. But for that, I think that's enough for today. We're gonna be back on with Fortnite here in a few. I got a few things I gotta do, And then, yeah, we'll be back on with the Game On chat open. You guys have a great one. I'll see you guys soon. Peace. All right, I'm not leaving yet. Give me 1 second. Thanks for watching.